And sorry, I'm feeling quite emotional saying this because I think it relates to a lot of people. This is God's daughter here, beside me as well as my wife. So that's the way God sees Pauline. That's how precious she is. So before I make a commitment to her for marriage, I shouldn't be, doing anything other than what God says is okay. So that's the best way I can put it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, go grab a guitar.
The real one?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my name's Sam, and this is Pauline. We've been married for just coming up for 5 years on April the 5th. So we're blessed.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. So good to have you over today. And I'm just going to go straight for it. I love my questions. And and so I was just wondering, how did you guys meet? Because, okay, forgive me, I'm also known to be not very politically correct. You don't come from the same country, do you?
No.
I don't think so. No, we don't.
No.
We don't.
But so how did you guys end up together? Where, when, how did it happen?
Great question. And I hope I get the details right. But the first time I remember meeting Pauline was actually when we were serving together on the worship team one week. Mm-hmm. And I'd seen Pauline's name on the rota, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know Pauline." And but by the end of that day, I did, and it was So that was great, and we instantly connected on a musical level and on a worship level. So we shared that interest. So that's how we actually met, I think.
Yes. Well, we met in church.
Met in church.
It's good to point that out.
In church. Yeah, that's good.
So that was church, and you do go to the same church, do you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
We go to Destiny Church.
Okay.
I think we met in the south side location of Destiny Church.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, and
I was just there for the day because I actually lived in the north of the city, so I was just rotated in to serve with the team there. They needed an extra vocalist, and I was it.
Okay, so let's talk first impressions. Did you guys kind of like?
Yeah.
So we know that Sam, you saw the name and you're like, Pauline. I haven't seen this name before. Pauline,
yeah.
What did you think? What was your first impression of Sam?
So obviously, Sam is quite well known in our church because he writes songs quite a lot. So the name was very familiar, and I would see the name come up on some of the songs that we sang in church. So serving, I was like, oh, cool, we'll get to meet the guy. And so we served. He was quite, easygoing and quite comfortable. Seemed to like his djembe, so he was playing his djembe that day.
Oh, was, yes, I remember.
And yeah, we just got along. I think he was friendly, and I think for me, because the south side wasn't the location that I went quite a lot, so it was really nice to just be made to feel welcome. And yeah, I think that was it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay, so this friendly guy, cool and popular, and then this chick that I've never heard of, cool, recipe. So how did it move from there? So what started happening?
Gosh, nothing.
Wow.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened for ages, actually.
So this is not what I met that day.
No, I'm a changed man.
This is not what I met that day. Actually, there's a really long story to it, and God's really amazing.
Yeah.
But when I met Sam, he was very bushy, lots of beard, weird curly funny hair. I just saw with the wee quiff there, and I was like, what's going on there?
Okay, so
It wasn't like Elvis or something, but you know, didn't have enough for that. It was an interesting little spike thing, which I thought was great at the time. But Pauline helped me. Yeah.
But yeah, so after that, I think we really got to see each other only like 10 times when the worship team would come together.
Yeah, that's right.
So he would share, and that was really cool. And I think that was 2011. And yeah, I think 3-4 years that would just see each other in passing.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was no hint of anything. I didn't even really think. I think we were just living our own lives. But then we shared same friends, so every so often we would find ourselves in each other's company.
Yeah, that's right.
And then for some reason, right? Not some reason, we all know what reason.
okay.
2014, I think. I don't know. I think we started Facebooking. That part of our relationship we forget quite a lot.
There was a lot of relationship building over Facebook.
Like we chatted a lot on Facebook at night. We'd just say hello and then chat for some hours and then good night and then that again every so often. And yeah.
It's really interesting because I think at that point I probably really struggled speaking to girls in general, but in person. And I think, as weird as it might sound, there was some kind of safety guard for me just typing to somebody, you know.
It was very chatty anyway.
I could always really express myself through typing because I could think about what I wanted to say before it came out of my mouth, you know. So, but that was a really.
But yeah, I think that was the first personal friendship that we started there, and that's a bit more maybe like work, or he's working on some music and stuff like that, and that's what we'd chat about most times and stuff.
Yes.
And then I think we started hanging out a lot because of friends. So around that time, a lot of the friends would throw like games nights or maybe a friend's birthday and would be there. And then I think there was like we had like a gig that a few of us from the worship team went to in Shawlands. Then I was like, interesting. You know, I just had that
Pauline, I have to tell, you know, probably people who may not know you. So Pauline is into hairdressing and so on. So kind of like how people look. I had to make sure that I was looking proper today because I knew that Pauline, I'm going to be speaking to Pauline, otherwise she's not going to speak to me. And so I know that for you, you know, how someone is presenting is important. So at that part,
to me, it does tell a lot about the person, like how they feel about themselves and stuff like that. So sorry, it just comes instinctively, sometimes to my own detriment. But I try to be a bit more graceful about it.
So did Sam have the same beard and the wee curly?
And some weird jeans, man.
Yeah, I think Pauline had to see through a lot. She had to see with the eyes of faith.
I'll tell you, it had to be God.
Yeah, that's the way you put it, isn't it?
It had to be God because, you know, the girl list, you know, girls, how's that list? My list was like tall, you know, strong, you know, muscles.
You know, the eyes of faith. I love the eyes of faith. So you guys, the highlights during that time before really thinking we are going to go out, if I can just kind of like summarize. So you were in the same team, you're worshiping at the same team in church, and you were meeting through friends and also Facebook, and maybe just online, isn't it? And then so you're from originally two different countries. So tell me a little bit. For Sam, so we are in Scotland. tell me, are you Scottish or are you from and Pauline, tell me, are you from a different place? And
so I was born in England, in the town of Leeds, and when I was 8 years old, my parents decided let's move to Scotland. So I've lived in Scotland since I was 8 years old. So yeah, the UK is where I've been brought up.
Well, I was born in Malawi, and I came to the neighbor.
Do this for me as well. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, I was born in Malawi, born and raised in Malawi, and then I think I came to the UK about 2007. So I was in England for a little bit, and then came up to Scotland.
Great. So Scotland has been the place where you two have met.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Amazing. And Glasgow. Cool. So was there something else in terms of before actually going, like we are actually more than just friends? Was there something else that happened that brought that to come, apart from the amazing jeans and the cool beard and the great hair and just I have to say, your personality, Sam, did it. So that's all you did.
So a lot happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't automatic. So after that aha moment, I went away and I started praying about it, and I was like, because to be honest, I was happy single. I was happy being single. I was a very independent woman. Yeah. I worked and I made my own money. I paid my own bills, and I lived my life. I really enjoyed being single because I'd come to that place. See, I wasn't necessarily very young. Well, I am quite, eternal youth kind of girl. Mm-hmm. But I was at the stage that I knew who I was. I wasn't trying to figure out who I was. I wasn't trying to find fulfillment from a man, or I was really happy being single, and I knew that I just wanted to serve God. Mm-hmm. And if it was a man coming along, that would be his timing, and I was happy with it. So when I had that aha moment with Sam, I went away and prayed, and then just shared a few friends. That was one of them. Friends will do you good, or do you weird? Because the moment I told a couple of friends, they were into this matchmaking business.
Is that when you started dropping me hints?
Yes, that's when you were invited to my birthday party. So I had a birthday party coming up, and Sam was invited suddenly. And Sam actually, he won the best dressed,
nice
guy at the party.
I mean, so it was like a comedy dress, so fair enough.
But so they started doing this thing, inviting us to dinner, and then leaving us to chat with each other while they made dinner in the kitchen, that kind of thing.
That's good. That's good.
Let's do games night, and then my cat,
my cat needs to be fed. I need to leave.
Bye.
Oh, just leave the two of you. Oh, what an accident.
Oh wow.
So we had that, and then so I went to my pastor, and I was like, because I've been raised that way in church. The way I was brought up, you honor your spiritual authority, and I trust that my spiritual authority can hear from God on my behalf because God has put them there for that purpose. So I went to my pastor and I was like, so, Sam? It's like, yes, what about him? I was like, I think there is something there. And my pastor was like, he is such a gentle soul, a beautiful soul.
That's so true.
I was like, okay, so what do you think? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. That's okay. I was like, okay. And then I went away and prayed some more. And then I heard God, and I was like, okay, confidence. So would spend some time together. Mm-hmm. But something else was happening on his side. So I'll leave him to share your side.
Is that now?
Well,
or
yes.
coming up,
No,
or just now?
no, you can share now.
I was ask. So all that was happening on Pauline's side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, so we're going to hear what is happening now on Sam's side.
Yeah. So I think during the time Pauline was experiencing that, I was obviously enjoying building a friendship with Pauline, but my journey spiritually was that, like, although I was kind of happy single, I had this deep desire to be with a partner and get married, and it's like God had started to say to me, "Oh, you need to do more social stuff. You know, you need to go to the church evening services because that's where people are who are your age and stuff." And the first one I went to, Pauline was leading worship on stage. No, I didn't click, you know, because I'm sometimes a little slower to catch on to things. But I was like, "Oh, there's Pauline," you know. So that was, you know, but it wasn't a coincidence. But also, I should probably talk about how I viewed relationships with the opposite sex a bit, because that was a real fear of mine. And so, while Pauline was fully in faith and confident about pursuing something, my natural built-in response to even a relationship that could potentially be right for me was no. You know, it was like it would be a safety guard. And I would always pass it off as God's telling me to wait. I would make it a spiritual thing, but it was based out of fear. And all I can say is thank God for the friends that He's put around me, because I needed to get my butt kicked into gear, basically, in the nicest way possible. But yeah, that's a bit of what I was going through at the time.
Oh wow!
And so I think we got there.
We did.
We did.
After there was just an example. The main thing, we'd started to build a relationship and get to know each other well, and I sent Pauline an email, I think, explaining why we shouldn't hang out together anymore. And that was basically as I was saying there, my response or my reaction, built-in thing of going, no, this can't go further. And so that you could maybe talk about what you went through at that point, if it's helpful.
Oh, yeah, I think that.
Sorry, yeah. Before I'm just thinking, you guys have raised a couple of really important points. One is, you know, for the girl being in a place of safety where she's actually comfortable and ready to go into a relationship. I think actually sometimes people can feel the pressure, but actually being mature enough and feeling comfortable enough is important. But I think the other thing that you've raised, Sam, which a lot of people would be experiencing and sometimes maybe not really talking about, is the fear or the apprehension. And so important to have both really good people around, but also to give ourselves time to heal and to be in that place where we can actually be kicked and, you know, like be moved into gear, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we reached the point of this amazing email. You do like your
with my amazing words and explaining. Sorry.
Pauline, what was your response to the email?
It's interesting because when I got that email, that whole week there had been a song playing in my mind, and the song it's just a really fun song by a band called it's called Joy Joy. So in my head, every time I'll be going back and forth, and there's a song I got, joy, 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 down in my soul, joy, 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 making me whole. So I got that email, and instantly my head just starts singing that song, joy, joy, joy. And I was like, God, I know you've spoken to me, and well, this is him. And I'm like, I'm quite old school. And so I'm going to wait. You deal with him and I'll wait. If nothing happens, I'll move on. But I'm not going to be the one pursuing because I'm very old fashioned and I would go like, well, the Bible says he who finds a wife, not she who finds a husband. So that was my very old fashioned. I know, like, hey, if God's spoken to you and there's boldness, go for it.
But you've said old school quite a bit, but I wonder if that's just the way things are meant to be in a way, isn't it? A little bit that at least it needs to be mutual to the best, but there is something about men leading in a way,
You know what? I really value the fact that I really gave him that space. Because sometimes I thought if I pursued him and said, well, God said this to me, and then obviously he loves God and he'll probably want to go like, well, if God said, maybe. But then I would never really feel like he wanted me. I would feel like I pursued him and I want him more than he wanted me. So in the sense, I was like, God, you know what? He would have the boldness and confidence as a man to know that I pursued her, and there's something about not emasculating a man and to really allow him to the chase, the pursuit. And I think to me, I'm a lady. I love to be pursued. It just feels really nice. And it doesn't. I'm really bold. I'm really bold and confident. But it's like, well, I can really carry this bag myself. But why should I carry it when you're there? That kind of, So. Just allow myself to be treated. So that was my idea. And then I was like, okay, Lord.
So your weight was, how did you wait? How did you do the waiting?
I went on holiday.
And
classy way to do it.
Sam, what made you go like, okay, change of mind, let me do the chase? What
That's a good question. Okay, so I think, well, one of the things was a good friend of mine who I was sitting with him one Sunday afternoon, and very soon after I'd sent Pauline this email, and he was like, I don't get it. There's a beautiful girl who clearly is attracted to you, who would just be so good for you, and what's wrong? And all it was fear. And I think what happened is we prayed together. I think he probably prayed that God would give me boldness to pursue her. And then after that, I think I made a phone call to Pauline and said, hey, can we meet for a coffee? And do you know what's really interesting is that God had actually put on my heart before I'd kind of thought about pursuing Pauline, that when it came to who I was to marry, I'd like to be the one to instigate it, because I think, not that I'd had a lot of relationships, but mainly the ones that I'd been pursued, and I'd felt guilty for being in them because it wasn't really what I wanted. It was because somebody had flattered me into it. So it's amazing how God works, because Pauline had the desire of not pursuing me, and I wanted to be able to pursue her. So that's what happened.
That's beautiful, guys. So I guess one of the things about being together and starting to go out together, coffee, and people just start spending more time with each other. And the more they like each other, the more the body yearns for each other. So I guess I just wanted to know how you guys navigated sexual relationships before marriage? Was that something that ever came up, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I remember the first time we spoke about that, and um, I guess I'm what you might call very unassuming. So I would never think anything about anyone particularly. So I was kind of la-di-da. I'm sure Pauline's never been with anyone. I hadn't, but we had the conversation, and and Pauline had been with someone in the past, and I didn't realize how much it would affect me hearing that, and it really, really was very difficult at the time for me to process that. So that was but we did process it, and we processed it well.
Yeah.
And if anything, it probably just strengthened our relationship and our time in marriage. So
I think one of the things, we did put boundaries in place.
Yes.
So because you can hold hands and then you can kiss, and then people lose the perspective further and further down the line as you are exploring how far your boundaries are. Yeah. But I think one of the things is we found good friendships, good advice. And I remember speaking to one lady from church, and she was like, well, give him a time limit. After 11 o'clock, he's got to go home.
Yeah.
and that was it. And would have at least a flatmate would be in the house. And I remember, I think Sam had a friend who was like, is she your girlfriend? If you're just spending time with her, you shouldn't be kissing her. She's not yours yet.
Yeah.
And so those are like really hardcore conversations. Yeah. But I loved that because it showed that he really honored me and valued me. Mm. So it really kept our perspective very clear, because there wasn't any indulging of that side of things, like emotionally. So like Sam has said, yes, I had been sexually involved with some in my past. So to be able, it was so refreshing to be able to be in a relationship with someone that was so respectful, so taking the time, because I wasn't in it to waste time. I wasn't in it to indulge myself, because I'd heard from God and I knew my end goal for this relationship, and we talked about it. So it wasn't like testing the waters. There were no waters to be tested in this relationship.
That's a really good point. We both went into the relationship with marriage in view. Yeah. So neither of us were like, let's give this a wee shot. Yeah. We were in faith it was going to work out to a good end.
And so there were boundaries that we put in place. There was just no going there, and there were a lot of things that we did for fun. And one of the things I think that I really enjoyed and probably kept us on the straight and narrow is that right from the beginning of our relationship, we prayed with each other, and we prayed together. We prayed for one another. We spent a lot of time writing songs anyway. Yeah. And so when you pray for each other, and you really can't do you can't double in those two things at the same time, to be honest.
You catch God's heart. Yeah. And sorry, I feel quite emotional saying this because I think it relates to a lot of people. This is God's daughter here, beside me, as well as my wife. So that's the way God sees Pauline. That's how precious she is. So before I make a commitment to her for marriage, I shouldn't be, doing anything other than what God says is okay. So that's the best way I can put it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was very honoring to me. I felt really special and valued in the relationship.
Yeah.
Before we even became married, it just felt really safe.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful. Thanks, guys. And thank you for opening up, but also for speaking truth. And we live in a world where people are given so much freedom and anyone can do whatever they want. Everyone can have a rule, but it is true that it's with honor that we really build something true and something good and something lasting. So
yeah.
so thankful for you both. And I guess, you know, as we were talking, I was just wondering, what would you say to people who are waiting to meet someone and are actually genuinely really struggling with the sexual side of things? I don't know if it was anything that any of you would have said was part of the picture, but I've heard a few of the people who are single and just feel being single, especially when it's taking some time and keeping themselves and waiting for being married, is really tough. Is there any advice that you could have for them?
I can say it's not easy, so I can sympathize, or empathize probably is the word, because I actually know what it feels like to be waiting for that. But what I can say is what a great opportunity to have time with God by yourself, because you won't get that time back of your singleness. Once you're married, you have someone to serve constantly, and that is a privilege, but it's also very time consuming and energy consuming. But when you're single, you have hours to pursue God for yourself. So if you can do that, then it will build you up for what's to come in marriage. That's what I would say.
That's so good.
I think one of the scriptures that I love in the Bible, it says, "Do not awaken young love before it's time." And I think it's quite easy to do that before you realize what's going on. So things like what you watch, what you read, it can build in you those desires. You can like rein yourself in, but if you are exposing yourself constantly to things that trigger those desires or that longing, you might not even want to go all that way, but it triggers that longing to be with somebody, or that longing to experience that, or the conversations you're having, even just being like, you know, quite crass about the topic, that can take you down the wrong path. And I think, like Sam is saying, focus on getting to know God, focus on healthy, wholesome friendships, people that have the same passions as you are. And I probably, like, when I look back, because I come from quite an opposite experience from you, it's probably I really enjoyed romantic novels. and you know what, they create a fantastical world for you, that all by yourself you can fall all by yourself. You don't need somebody else to, you know, to get you down that path. All by yourself you can end up in there. But if you focus on healthy friendships, focus on healthy wholesome things that you read or that you watch, I'm sure you'll probably be able to do that. And if it comes to the wire, like Sam is saying, talk to God. I mean, God is the one that created sexual relationships. We have to remember that. And it's a gift and to be enjoyed, but in marriage. And one of the things is that because the society is so flippant about it, is that you forget the consequences. And there are consequences to be had, you know, when you do it in the wrong context. And the consequences will carry into your marriage and you have to deal with them. Like we had to deal with that. We had to have the conversation. I felt really compelled because I was like, I need to have this conversation. And if it means Sam walks away from me, at least I know that I was ready to go into that marriage with a clean slate, with all my cards on the table, so that if there is anything to be dealt with, especially when it comes to sexual relationships, you can't hide that. It shows up in how you are with the next person, because you have been with somebody else, if you have been, or if your partner has been with somebody else, that will come to mind if you never, like, address it and stuff. So to me, for those that are single, that are, even if you have been there, it's okay. You can always just choose today. I'm starting afresh.
There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus.
Absolutely. So you can decide today. And those who haven't, it's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. And unless you won't be carrying baggage into your marriage, if you decide to get married, you'll be starting afresh. And so, but also for us, one of the really valuable things that was said to us was a conversation we had with one of our pastors. And he said, for you, it will be the first time.
Our first time.
It'll be our first time.
That's so true. That's so true.
So it just concluded that chapter for us.
And just one thing I was going to add, as Pauline was speaking, I was just remembering the same guy that, kicked my butt into getting going with Pauline was the same guy that helped keep me on the straight and narrow when I was single, and helped keep me pure in the area of sexuality. So in a short phrase, be accountable is so helpful. So be accountable to somebody.
This is so good. This is really, really a treasure. I have a question though, just because when Pauline, when you're singing Joy Joy, I could just see light, Sam, I wish you could have seen yourself. There was just like such a unity. So as soon as Pauline started singing, you could just see how you two were coming together. So and I think the fact that you started with serving in the same place and working for God in the same area has really brought you guys together. So my question is about, how is it for you, what we call serving in the same area, being in the same ministry? For some people, it could be, a job, for example, and they have to work in the same place. And it can always bring a little bit of a different feel to how people relate. How is it for you? What works for you being in the same ministry? And what is it that you find challenging being in the same ministry? Because I have to say, you two are two different characters, isn't it?
Yes, we are.
And you're both amazing, both exceptional at how you do things and what you do, but in quite a different way. So how do you bring this together? How do you harmonize both the marriage and the ministry? Go on.
Who should start?
Should.
Okay. I had a couple of thoughts there. We've had different seasons so far, and sometimes we've served together and other times we've served individually. But serving together, I think, there's times when we've probably found it, there has been a wee bit of friction, but overall, I think what I find is we bring strength to one another that wouldn't have been there.
Friction? Enlighten me.
Friction. Actually, do you know what? Maybe that's a strong word, because
you guys are so good. I thought it would be proper fight. So friction is too much, yeah?
We've not yet got to what is it called? Fisticuffs.
No. Never get there.
No, we won't. I think not so much when we're actually serving, but maybe the preparation time beforehand, that morning, things like that. that's when the niggly things might happen. Would you agree?
No, carry on.
I don't think,
I'm trying
to be honest though, I'm
perspective.
thinking probably more earlier on in marriage rather than now. I think there's, I feel like I'm trying to be careful what I say.
No, you carry on.
No, so my recent memories are that there is a real harmony when we're together. One can bring what the other can't. It's that two are better than one, the Bible says, and that's really the case when we serve together. But what I was gonna say is that God spoke to us a while ago about how sometimes we would serve in different places on the same day, but the image he gave us was of a one-stringed instrument that was attached between those two locations. So even if we're serving separate locations, we're still serving together. There's still a unity. So that's a few thoughts from me.
I was just pulling you like, I
good.
I understand what you mean.
So you can remember a few times that weren't perfect then.
I think it's just practical stuff, like getting ready and leaving the house on time if you're serving together. And I think that's what that's
all I meant, actually.
Yeah. I think for me, it's sort of what I love about our dynamic is that because we're totally different people, is that we bring totally different strengths that complement each other.
Yeah.
Some is the me I wish I was, that I don't have. Some is the calm, gentle, strong personality that will be there, but not pushy and not forceful. And I need that in my life. I need like that when I'm serving, because he'll probably crack a joke when I've just been lambasting the team. And he'll just lighten the mood, and then I can continue.
Never, Pauline. You're always so calm, cool, and collected, and just actually just say.
When it's time to get down to business, no fuss about. Do you know? I'm like, okay, let's chat. We'll chat half an hour, and then it's like, okay, let's get down to business. And everybody knows, come on, it's business time.
Yeah.
And then we'll chat again at the end and have some fun. And I'm very flexible.
Yeah. But what's great is that Pauline gets things done. Sometimes, although I'm relaxed, I can be like, oh, where did the time
relaxed.
go? And I'll chat to someone until the building closes. But I need someone to go, let's get on with this. So it really helps.
But so I love serving together.
Yeah. And
we bring, the dynamic is really great when we're serving together.
Yeah.
But we're never really conflicted in the sense if we have to serve in apart, because we always have what's good for the team in mind.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
If it brings the strength that we're in two different places, then why not? And I think we're in that season where we have been serving in the same team, but not physically together.
Yeah.
And I think if it brings the strength, we're always thinking what's good for the kingdom in this point. And then we arrange our lives to accommodate that.
Yeah, and that's right.
And sometimes it can look a bit, like late nights for you, and then he has to babysit if I'm serving, because we have an almost 1 year old.
Yeah.
So, but so we're really blessed. It's a privilege because before I got married, I was really, my focus was like, I just want to serve the Lord, and whoever I marry is just coming along and we're just serving the Lord together. Because I was thinking if I'm out serving 3-4 times a week, every week, and I have a husband who is at home, who doesn't really understand that commitment, there won't be any joy in a marriage. But I'm really blessed that we can do that. And there's an understanding, there's a flexibility to do that together. And sometimes the fact that Sam is so releasing, I think that's just the best, because he's like, just be you, just, do what God has called you to do. So I just love that. And for me to be able to go like, go for it.
And just to quickly add to what Pauline was saying, it just reminds me how important and helpful it is to both be aiming for the same thing, and knowing that you've got this end result. So Pauline's saying, like, we're doing it for the best thing. What's the best way to serve the kingdom? And when that's both of your perspective, then you'll end up working in.
Yeah. And I wondered, because sometimes, we get people who may not totally understand what we're talking about in terms of church and kingdom. So these could be being watched by other people. And I just wondered, in that way, it could be that people who are at work, but even in the church, really, that maybe it's really, really important to understand each other's work, isn't it? And to accept the type of shift sometimes which can come with the work, or type of commitment. Some people end up being, working in entertainment industry. Would the other person be okay and be willing to support them in that as well? And I had two last things. One is, what's been your favorite moment of being together? It could have been, before you got married, now that you're married. What's been a time where you go like, this was my favorite? And it could be two different ones. So let's start with Sam. What's been your precious, most memorable?
Gosh, that's really difficult. But actually, one thing, there'll be a lot of them, right? But one thing I remember is when me and Pauline, we were dating, we were going out, and we were in my music studio, and I think we were just doing music together, and I'd written a piece of music, and Pauline I said Pauline to sing over it, like just some lovely random sounds. And for me, I was like, wow, like God's given me someone who can complement what he's put in me so well. And I couldn't have ever achieved that by myself. And yet God would be kind enough to give me something that just boosts what he's already given me tenfold, if not more. So that was a really amazing moment for me. I think I said something like, you're the harmony to my melody, or something like that, because
cheesy, right?
Cheesy, but I really meant it. So that's one moment that really blessed me.
Wow, that's beautiful. Pauline.
Yeah, I think I loved our life. I still love our life, right? But I think one of the things that I remember is the first year of our marriage, and it probably carried on for like maybe until maybe last year, when I was a bit groggy because of pregnancy. But that our home was just full of laughter.
Yeah.
And Sam, gosh, it's like being married to the pan master, right? So he comes up with all sorts of weird jokes and funny stuff. But our home was always full of laughter, and we're just laughing, and it's not that our life was exempt of challenges or exempt of, serious life decisions or life experiences, but there's always a joy in being married together, and the friendship, because I think that having music in common and the ability to share that, I think it just it just lightens our heart. And knowing, I think at the beginning we did sort of pursue to understand why did God put us together. And I think that really just when we are doing that, we're as happy as, I don't know, what would you say?
Happy as Larry is a phrase, but then someone says, who's happy. Larry? But anyway, as happy as the happiest people on earth. There we go. That makes more sense.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's our life at home when we're at home and the pressure's off. We just
like Christmas holidays and things like that. There's such a laugh. This is especially with Caleb,
Well,
our son,
now Caleb is taking up like after his father, like with his funny antics. But I think I just love our home life. It's full of joy, full of laughter, and
it's great. We're blessed.
God is good. Can I ask one last thing? I hope you guys are ready, but are you going to sing us a small song?
Wow. I didn't expect that.
I didn't either. Oh man.
That's not coming. So come on, guys, harmonize.
You've been drinking coffee, Gracia. You could have warned me.
I know you with your strict regimes and everything and all the exercises before singing. This one is just on the go. Bring something on.
Okay, go grab a guitar.
The real one?
Yeah. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you. I've loved you with eternal life. I've dressed you as my bride. I filled you with my holy word. My spirit lives with you.
Empowered you to glorious works. You're the apple of my eye.
I'll never leave you.
You'll never leave me.
I'll never forsake you. So you can say, my God is for me. You will never fail me, no. I'll live by His faith. Boldly will I proclaim His truth to the world till He returns.
Every word you've spoken has created life in me. I know that I am chosen. Your grace is all I need.
I'll never leave you.
You'll never leave me.
I'll never forsake you.
No, you'll never.
So I can say, my God is for me. He will never fail me, no. I'll live by His faith. Boldly will I proclaim truth to the world till he returns. He'll never leave you. Never leave you. Oh, he'll never, never leave me. Yeah. My God, he'll never, never leave me. Oh, so I can say, my God is for me. He will never fail me, no. I'll live by his faith. Boldly will I proclaim his truth to the world till he returns.
There we go.
You made me cry, and
Oh,
it's beautiful, beautiful,
bless.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, amazing people. So love you so much, and thank you so much for coming, blessing us in this way. Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're a great host.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will get you.